Thank you so much for being here at this very important conference and a very important session today. While I was preparing my notes, I started saying it's an honor to be here, absolutely. But then I thought it's not enough, because you heard just a few minutes ago Shaima Gargash, Director for Energy and Sustainability at MOFA, and she announced a very important conference, the conference called the United Nations Water Conference. I represent the United Nations, and I can tell you, this will not be a simple conference. Like everything seems to happen in the UAE, like the COP28, this will be a groundbreaking event. In the UN system, water conferences or water discussion were at a halt for many, many years. We are very grateful to UAE, to the COP28, and to all the government and its leaders for bringing this back into the UN through this conference, which will be held next year here in UAE. So allow me, therefore, on behalf of the Secretary General, Deputy Secretary, to really thank the government UAE for bringing the conference to the UAE together with the government of Senegal, as expressed before. So today we have a panel that will help us to understand how this conference will be, but also to understand, I think this is very relevant to many of you here, the incredible efforts that UAE is doing in this respect. And that's why UAE is the right place to host this conference, because they are very much advanced in water technology, and we hope one day this technology and investment which goes with it is transferred to the countries where access to water is needed. I was told yesterday by Ms. Gargash that 2.2 billion people do not have access to water, clean water, as of today, which is nearly a quarter or more than a quarter than the population. But let me stop here, because I think you're all very keen to listen our panelists. So I will introduce them one by one when I put the question to them. I guess you can see their name there as well. So the first person I would like to introduce is Excellency Mohamed Al Shamsi, which is Chief Executive Officer at TAQA Water Solution. Mr. Al Shamsi, thank you for being here. So I really would like to know, because we heard from the government, we heard from the Minister of Foreign Affairs just a few minutes ago, but you represent definitely a different sector and very experienced one. So we know that TAQA Water Solution is known for large-scale infrastructure and technology deployment. What breakthrough of business model, maybe you are more interested in business models, do you see it as most promising to accelerate sustainable water supplies at scale? The floor is yours. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for starting with the most difficult question you throw it on me. Yeah, we are in TAQA Water Solution, part of a bigger family called TAQA Group, the main power and water provider in Abu Dhabi. 7,000 employees, presence in 25 countries, very specialized and the most advanced water solutions when it comes to freshwater solutions, desalination, and specific RO desalination. But most importantly, what to do after using the water, mainly referring to collection, safe treatment, and safe disposal of the treated water. We are very proud in TAQA and maybe in UAE. We are the pioneers of reusing the recycled water or treated water coming from the sewage. We reached a mark of 80% reuse of the sewage treated water with the most advanced technologies available, at least that we are aware about in the market. I had just maybe an hour ago a discussion with Ayesha about a comparison between UAE and France. For your information, the reuse percentage of recycled water in France is less than 5%. It's really a food for thought, how we are throwing a precious resource of life, of water. And what makes it even worse, we are collecting and then spending time, efforts, money in treating this water and just simply throwing it in the sea. This is something really we need to think about. How can we optimally, have the best use of our resources? There is definitely a need for intervention from the policymakers. There is a need to change the policies around the water. There is a need to change the culture level, especially in the young generation. They need to understand the purpose of life, purpose of water. What does it mean, less for more? If we go back to previous history, we see the water consumption from our ancestors and maybe even from our fathers or grandfathers. And the way it's being consumed today, we are having the highest consumption rates globally in an area considered mostly as desert. So there are a lot of angles for the problem that we need really to tackle one by one. We need to first ensure having accessibility to fresh water. And then we need to ensure that we are really recycling or reusing this water as much as we can.
Thank you so much. I think that was a very, very inspiring answer, and I think it frames our discussion today, why that was so important, water resources, and now what needs to be done. I agree with you, the focus on policymakers, not just in UAE, where I do believe there is already a lot done, but around the world, and the role of youth. So it's a cultural transformation. So thank you for that, but then let's go back to UAE, in particular to an initiative, the Mohammed bin Zayed Water Initiative. And we have the pleasure here to have today the executive director of such initiative, Ms. Ayesha Al Ateeqi. Well, I would like to, if it's possible, for you to focus on the innovations and the private-public collaborations that you are focusing on in your work and how you go about it.
Thank you so much, and I'm privileged to be joined today with our panelists and at the World Green Economy Summit. I'd like to start with giving a bit of a brief on the status of water scarcity globally, and that's the reason this new organization was created. So the implications of water scarcity, and when we talk about water, it's never just about water. It's about health, it's about food security, it's about geopolitical stability, it's about economic development. So the implications of not addressing water scarcity can be very harsh, not just on the environment, but globally. We're also seeing some predictions that we've recently heard, which is that demand will outstrip supply by 40% by 2030, and that is a deficit. So what would the world look like with such a deficit? Now, we know freshwater resources are limited, and as climate change impact is happening, as the global population is growing, the need for water is just increasing. So we will need to rely on alternative water resources as well, such as water reuse or desalination. Now, the organization was created to really help address water challenges and water scarcity globally. The way we do this is through three main pillars. The first pillar is accelerating innovation. And why is this important? Is because the water sector has been quite stagnant. And when we look at other sectors, we see the pace of innovation actually quite fast, but when we compare it to our water sector, the pace is much slower. And if we look at just desalination, The biggest breakthrough in desalination happened with the RO breakthrough. So that's the transition from thermal to RO. But when did that happen? It happened 75 years ago. So we need a new technological breakthrough that can help us provide clean, accessible, and affordable water to the world. So the organization has launched 2 competitions, the first being X Prize Water Scarcity, which is humanity's largest ever competition. It is a 5-year competition with a prize purse of $119 million. And the competition is designed to break the economic barrier of desalination to make it more affordable to low and middle income countries around the world. The competition has attracted over 600 teams from around the world, from 86 countries. We just recently announced our qualifying teams, which is 143 teams. And that just tells us that we're not really in any shortage of ideas. And when we actually call out to the world that we are trying to address this challenge, there was a big response, and we've been able to attract solutions and ideas from around the world. We also recently launched a new competition this year, which is المياه Challenge for agriculture. And because the majority of the global water consumption goes to agriculture, around 70%, we believe if we can find the right water solutions, we can really help move the needle. So we launched a competition for water for agriculture to reduce water consumption in agriculture. And we've also attracted a lot of attention. We've received over 800 applications. And we just recently announced our semi-finalists, which are around 21 teams from 13 countries. So that is how we'd like to really accelerate innovation to find the right solutions that are economically viable, that are sustainable, and then can meet the demands of vulnerable communities around the world. But then the real question is then how do we move from the lab to the field? And that's where we need to have the right partnerships with the private sector. This is where we need to demonstrate the solutions on the ground and prove the feasibility of these solutions and really drive the right collaboration to be able to scale up these solutions globally.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I mean, I like also not only the initiative that you launch to get ideas from all over the world, which is so altogether more than 1,000, nearly 1,400 projects, ideas that you are able to collect and understand in the future to promote. And I agree with you. I think he also heard it somewhere else today in this already very interesting day. We're only half of the way through the 2 days summit, the role of agriculture in terms of water, in terms of also climate change. So all these interconnected very deeply. So thank you so much, Ms. Al Ateeqi, about this. So let's move, let's keep because I like very much that you went into going out there. And then we have here Mr. Mohamed Al Shamsi, which is the acting executive director of the UAE Water Aid. And well, you have supported a lot of projects internationally, so you are already out there. Let's assume we are 1 year and a bit in the future. We are at the Water Conference, United Nations. We are all about United Nations, about projects, bureaucracy as well, but also projects out there. And it would be very interesting to know what you would share in terms of experience. What experience do you think in managing this project internationally what are the lessons learned?
Thank you
that you can share?
Thank you,
so
Luca.
much.
Thank you for the question. Proud to be, or privileged to be, with the distinguished panelists here. Now, UAE Water Aid Foundation, let me start with the background about the initiative. It was started in 2014 as an initiative by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President, Prime Minister, and ruler of Dubai. The target set by His Highness was to provide water for 5 million people globally. Now, then, when we saw a lot of response from the public and the importance of providing people with water, and there was a lot of excitement around it, His Highness raised the target to reach 7 million. Now, after 10 years, we reached 37 countries and 15 million beneficiaries throughout those 10 years. Now, as UAE Water Aid Foundation, it's not only to provide water for people in need, but there is also an arm that focuses on research and development. There is the Mohamed Al Global Water Award, a $1 million prize, which attracts innovations from companies, small and large companies, research and development centers and universities, individuals as well, including youth, and also solutions that would provide water for emergency response. Now, throughout those years, we awarded more than 47 people across 26 countries. 4 cycles were complete, and we're proud to announce that the 5th cycle will be launched by the end of this year, inshallah. Now, what we saw throughout those 10 years, focusing on solutions which are community-based, gave more impact for those communities. So having water wells, that provides the essential part of water, but having them close to schools, clinics, those communities complements other aspects as well. Now, other parts also that we realized is partnerships. The importance of partnerships also, as mentioned by our colleagues here, it helped us kickstart immediately by having projects mobilized. Some examples. Now, we are annexed to Dubai Electricity and Water Authority. Now, Dubai Electricity and Water Authority came with a lot of expertise and experiences in certain areas. One of those areas were focusing on research and development. So we worked with them to establish a mobile unit that would provide easily water in different spaces and can be transported from an area to another. Now, other partnerships included also in the private sector. For example, we have My Dubai. My Dubai, we started working with them since inception to have local-based projects distributing water in the holy month of Ramadan in different areas in United Arab Emirates. So having their strength and collaborating with 14 entities locally, that helped us to mobilize immediately in the first year. Now, having also Red Crescent taking the lead in, I would say, delivering those projects on our behalf and continuing to deliver till today, that brought also expertise from their side, helping us to reach the target quickly, effectively, and efficiently. So you can see that part from the partnership that helped us a lot to reach this point now. Now, the innovation part, when we talked about the award, we saw a lot of solutions that were available, that we're working closely with them. Any potential solutions that we can apply in the future, that's also work in progress that we can have as a potential project in the future.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. There's a lot of lessons learned, I would say. And you mentioned 37 projects, I guess, around the world.
37 countries and 15 million beneficiaries. Yes.
Okay. And countries, which region did you?
All regions, actually. So we have projects in Europe, we have projects in South America, we have in Africa, Asia. So we're covering the whole.
Okay. Excellent. There's a lot. So now, actually, we have the last person to speak, but then we'll have another round of questions. But we have here Dr. Nawal Al Hanaaei, she's the Director of Future Energy at the Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure here in the UAE. And I left you last for one good reason. You heard a lot of talks about innovation, a lot of ideas floating out there, a lot of capacity by these organizations to really mobilize innovation strategy and so on. So now you are the government and you are receiving all these inputs. So it will be interesting for me to understand what your ministry does to convert these ideas, these innovations, activities into renewable energy, into the UAE's domestic, but also international water strategies.
Thank you, Luca. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting us to interact in this very important session. For UAE, we have always embedded water energy nexus in the thinking at the core of our national long-term strategies and planning, recognizing that sustainable water security and energy transition go hand by hand and deeply interconnected. For us in UAE and in the ministry in particular, we have launched the UAE Water Security Strategy 2036 in 2017, and we just recently updated this strategy, along with our key stakeholders. Our approach in designing our long-term strategies is bottom-up approach, whereby we engage all these utilities, private sectors, as well as local regulatory frameworks and entities to work with us to produce those strategy. For us in this strategy, we aim to ensure sustainable access to water under normal and emergency conditions, while reducing total water demand by 21%, increasing treated water usage to 95%. So actually we achieved about 80% as stated by our colleague here, Ahmed, but our ambition is high. We are also expanding the strategic reserve in this aspect. Our directorate integrates the nexus through four main levers, whereby we are putting policy integration, one of the key aspects whereby we align the UAE energy strategy and the water security strategy to coordinate between the water and the energy planning, in particular for desalination, irrigation efficiency, and strategic storage. The second lever is the renewable power desalination, whereby we are advancing the solar power reserve osmosis and exploring emerging technologies such as forward osmosis and membrane desalination to reduce the energy intensity and the emission as well. Also, for us, we are working towards strategic modeling and foresighting by using and utilizing the geospatial platforms, whereby we are assessing the long-term water energy scenarios, optimizing resources, allocation, and support evidence-based decision-making. Our final lever, which is the international cooperation. At the global level, the UAE promotes for water energy nexus approaches throughout all our interaction, if it is multilateral approach or bilateral approach, and through all the political spheres such as BRICS, G20, and COP in this regards. We also position the renewable desalination and integrated planning as a critical enablers for climate resilience. As stated by our colleague Shaima today, the UN Water Conference, which is a unique event. This is one of the also platforms that we are capitalizing on to highlight the global water dialogue and the innovation and shared solution in region that are most water stressed. This holistic integration is allow us to address the water security, decarbonization, and the climate adaptation, in parallel strengthening the UAE domestic resilience and its leadership role in shaping global water energy solutions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Al Hanaaei. I was actually reflecting on your last point, which are really, really good, because in the meantime, I was looking, while you were talking, that what are the goals of the UN conference, the United Nations Water Conference next year. And I see that they talk about strengthen global cooperation, and I think all of you have somehow touched upon those, mobilize resources, and generate bold, actionable commitments. These I took from the website, so it might change later on, but clearly there are this kind of broad objective that they are looking into. I feel maybe mobilize resources, it's still something that needs to be brought up, I mean internationally, but the other points, I think, your focus on innovation, transfer of technology are also very, very important for developing countries, because as UN, I mean, the main goal of this conference is, of course, from the UAE to the world and bring solutions out there. So let me do a last round of questions. We still have a few minutes of this very, I would say, very interesting panel. We are learning a lot and a lot of new ideas. But anyway, we were inspired at the beginning by His Excellency on why water is important, what needs to be done. But let me ask you one, if you can mention only one or two, most critical action, either under policy, technology, or partnership, that should be prioritized before the conference next year, something that they can be showcased next year, what would be in your case? What do you suggest? Maybe we can start from you, Excellency.
I think, you know, the water as a topic has many challenges and has many concerns. And the water scarcity issue is across, even now, the countries that has even rich water resources, by the way. The main issue of this subject, from my personal point of view, is the affordability. Even if we don't have access to underground water, we can do the desalination RO units, just install them in the coastal area, and you start pumping fresh water. The main issue is how much this will cost. Infrastructure by its nature are extremely expensive. It's heavy capex incentive and requires lots of technology transfer and even shipping everything from outside to any site for desalination. How much this will cost? How can we come up with resilient financial modeling, financial products that will provide easy access for competitive funding options? Without solving this problem, at the end of the day, the governments will transfer the cost to the end users, to the citizens, or they have no option except subsidizing all these projects. So, beside innovation, which is very important, I mean, Ayesha mentioned that RO is now exists for the last 75 years without proper, let's say, disruptive technology in the desalination space. We'll continue having a key obstacle related really overcoming the financial issue. You can easily predict all infrastructure costs are extremely expensive, whether it is roads, dams, I mean, same thing is applying for the water. Getting access to cheap money is very important. Having sure that we are providing the citizens with a competitive tariff is a key thing. Usually we hear about breaking the tariffs for solar now, it became cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, but you don't hear this tone in the water industry. Hopefully it will come one day.
Okay. Thank you so much. That is definitely a very important element, the financial analysis. Let me ask you, maybe you or other, kind of follow-up question. What's the difference in cost, I guess, in the UAE between, let's say, liter of water, which is from desalinization and recycle? Because you mentioned recycle in your first intervention. There is a big difference?
10 times.
10 times?
10 times.
Okay, the first one, I guess, then the recycle.
Desalination is more expensive by at least 10 times.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. That's a very important element. So let's continue. Maybe we continue with Ms. Ayesha Al Ateeqi. On my question, what is one activity, one critical action that you think need to focus? We heard about financial analysis. What would be in your case?
I'd firstly like to say that the water community is actually very thrilled that the UN Water Conference is happening. So I was at the UN Water Conference 2023, and obviously everyone was extremely thrilled, but they felt it was such a long time since they had the second conference. 90s, so we're really looking forward to this. I think the thing that I would say is that how can we actually turn promises or potential to impact? And that is, how can we really start accelerating deployment of proven technologies? And I think that can happen through the right strategic partnerships. So we know that we do have existing solutions. We further need to accelerate them and find even more economically viable and sustainable solutions. But really, the deployment and the scalability is going to be determined by the right partnership. And that means on a government level, government needs to enable them, financiers need to back them, Innovators need to advance them, and then obviously we need the communities to adopt them.
Perfect. That's excellent. It's very, very clear. So let's move now to Dr. Nawal Al Hanaaei. We heard about partnership, we heard about sustainability of activities and policies. What would be, in your case, one key critical element?
So from our side, I think building on UAE experience, long-term planning should be one of the tools to ensure accessibility, affordability, and as well as sustainability. From our side, using the also building on cross-border partnership and technology transfer and capacity building. Today I was in a debate, Africa UAE Invest debate, and one of the key stakeholders, finance institutes, spoke about capacity building. They have, in Africa, for instance, they are building water infrastructure. However, the capacity or the capacity or the knowledge transfer there is very weak. That's why the operational of those desalination or the water projects is very difficult for them, which cause and imply a heavy extra capex and opex in their case. So having this in place is very crucial in the water aspect, as well as ensuring that innovation is part of the DNA of the organizations and the countries.
Perfect. Excellent. And then last but not least, in this case, hopefully, Mr. Al Shamsi, what would be your key?
Mainly focusing on managing the precious water resource going forward. So looking at both the supply side and the demand side. If we talk about the supply side, maybe to elaborate further with what the colleagues what they said. In the supply side, definitely going forward, decoupling and focusing on RO, including solar or renewable energy in water production, making sure that our water networks are managed efficiently, reducing the waterline losses as much as we can, and also focus on the demand side by having specialized programs to ensure that the public reduce the consumption of water, including the private sector to scale up retrofit projects to ensure as well that we manage the resource properly, and maybe including the latest technologies like artificial intelligence to find further solutions managing both those areas.
Perfect. Again, I have to say, let me conclude here because I understand we are a bit pressed by time. So I think we all heard, if I want to summarize quickly, that there is a lot of thinking and innovation that the UAE government and non-government organizations and associations are putting together already. I notice, I mean, I travel the world, I go in other conferences, and I hear needs, but you are already at the level of solutions. And I like also your focus on a good financial analysis, your focus on policies, the importance of policies, that they can be implemented. So I think that the fact that the next year this conference will be in UAE, not by chance, I think is the right place to be, because you are very much advanced. I do believe as United Nations will be an opportunity for developing countries in particular to learn from you, and you to guide them in the future, so a good sharing of experience. But also will be a possibility for many countries to find the resources, unfortunately sometimes financial resources, to move on. But technology is out there, ideas are out there, and I'm very thankful again to the government of UAE to take the lead on this. And you're totally right, it was since early 90s there was no water conference organized by the UN, and 2000 was a minor event in 2023, but this will be the real big one, and it will be next December. So again, thank you so much for being here today and for organizing the conference next year.
Thank you.
Thank you.